Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Round 6 finally in the books, and another great round of football that was produced by many of the talented NRL players that we have in the game. Great to have round 6 finally in the bank. Now, before we continue, guys, you would have received a notice, actually, the new addition to the table. See, this is the Dream Team Cup. Now, in 2020, last year, I won the Dream Team Cup in a league where I played Supercoach with some of Supercoach's best. Now, as you can see here, this competition has been going on for the last 10 years. I'm honoured to have my name, Statisticians 25, or Stats 25 in this instance, located right here. Honoured, and I'm thankful for Norm and the guys that run that comp. Fun fact, actually, in 2012, I believe, we have Tigers forward and Premiership winner Liam Fulton actually won this in 2012. So this comp's been going on for about 11 years. This is the 11th year it's been running. And to have taken it out at the 10-year mark with my engraving right here, quite the honour. So shout out to Norm and the boys for a great night on Friday night and just celebrating the trophy. Much appreciated, gents, and looking to hopefully retain and keep this on my table forever. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you for joining me, guys, once again on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for all those that put in the feedback from last week's episode with Nathan. Quite a lot of positive reviews from that, so really thankful for your support. Let's get straight into round 6, guys. Panthers 20 defeating the Broncos 12. Quite the performance from the Panthers in terms of a lot quieter than usual. I just thought that the Broncos came out and performed just phenomenally. Probably the best performance I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years from the Broncos. They came out fighting with little things that started to get right, and they put in a whole 80-minute performance. Now, yes, they didn't get the win, and Panthers definitely weren't on their A game, but Broncos actually competed. The forward pack lived up to it. Lodge and Haas had massive games. But the difference between the two teams at the end of the day was just the halves. I thought in the clutch moments, Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary really lived up to the hype once again. Nathan Cleary slotting that 2-point field goal with no pressure applied to him, which obviously the Broncos would have been definitely bummed about that. But not only to mention that as well, but Jerome Luai breaking through the line when he did. And he broke through that line, and he created opportunity, and Nathan Cleary again in support to finish off what was a good try towards the end of that game. So the Panthers obviously copped a bit of a scare. They've won about 21 straight in terms of regular season games. I don't know if we'll ever see that ever again. But they're starting to get I want to say they're getting a little complacent, but now they're starting to realise that every team is ready to to knock them off the top of the table, and every team is really wanting to aim to beat the Panthers. If you look at some of the stats from the Panthers, Brian Thornton on the wing, another phenomenal performance from him. 25 runs, 272 metres, a line break, and 15 tackle breaks. Matt Burton performing solid in the centres as well since jumping on. Mitch Kenny defensively put in a big performance, 62 tackles. James Fisher-Harris, 14 runs, 134 metres, 2 tackle breaks, and 35 tackles. So it's good to see that from him. Payne Haas for the Broncos, 20 runs, 211 metres, a tackle break, 34 tackles. And a performance from him where trying to really make up for lost time. You can see that in the first 3 games of him missing, you would have been dying to get out there and have a run, but obviously it wasn't to be due to his suspension. But Matt Lodge played a phenomenal game. 15 runs, 143 metres with 7 tackle breaks and 3 offloads, and 17 tackles to add to that. While the Broncos needed to be better in some areas, they were a lot better and put on a much better performance than they have in the last few years. But the Panthers, a bit quiet, and they were, I reckon, a little bit shaken and surprised by how well the Broncos were playing. But then again, they sneak off in the end, and the big play stepped up when it mattered the most. The Knights 26 defeating the Sharks 22. And this was a clash between, more of a seesawing clash between 2 of the mediocre teams in the competition. Knights have a formidable forward pack, but a very scrappy backline. The Sharks just can't seem to get wins over top 8 sides. And that curse continued again for them this week. Now, Kalen Ponga played a game. He vomited 2 or 3 times during the game. His roommate came down with some sort of an illness. But just when he needed to step up. When he needed to step up, he actually stepped it up. And, 3 tries, that last try especially with Frizzell, the crossfield kick, and then having Frizzell pass it on to him, and him just being there, being available, and being ready to capitalise on that play. It's freakish. It was phenomenal. That won in the game. I would love to see that more against the bigger opponents, like your Penrith Panthers, who they get the opportunity to verse this week, as well as, Parramatta Eagles, Sydney Roosters, South Sydney Rabbitohs, Canberra Raiders. These type of teams where he needs to be delivering at crucial times like that, which is where, he can pull off those big plays. Pulled it off again. The Sharks, a little scrappy in the first half. They've had quite the tough week, with John Morris having been moved on and Josh Hannay coming into the ranks. But look, they were okay. In the second half, they really started to click, scoring 2 tries in the space of 4 or 5 minutes. But it's just unfortunate that they couldn't really hold off the Knights. The Knights kept coming for them, and finally good to see the Knights get that win at home after a few successive losses. But I just want to talk about Brodie Jones for a minute, the forward who had to jump on for Heimel Hunt, who injured his hammy, and he was immaculate. He played 73 minutes in the centres, and it was some really freaky stuff. So really good play from him. Come up with a few great defensive reads as well. For 73 minutes playing prop, having to move into the centres and play the whole game out there, I thought it was a huge effort, and probably a performance he'd be the most proud of, even considering it wasn't even his position. So, hats off to Brodie Jones. My respect that night, and as I said, he cleaned up very well. Defensively, he wasn't too bad, but first time playing in the centres and you're forward, what are you expecting? But no, he was very good. But he gets to move back to prop this week, which we'll see a little later. But the first time the Brayley brothers came up against each other, and they both had excellent games, especially defensively. Jayden Brayley, 57 tackles for the Knights, and Blake Brayley, 56 for the Sharks. So good to see the brothers hit it out and have a bit of a laugh on the field as well. But the standouts for me, Tyson Frizell, 17 runs, 165 metres, a line break assist, a try assist for that Kalen Ponga try, 5 tackle breaks, 3 offloads, and 48 tackles in a massive 80-minute effort from him. And I thought for his first game back, CSC for Talakai off the bench was pretty good. 14 runs, 141 metres, and a tackle break to go with about 10 tackles or so. But the Sharks need to be better. They'll get some reinforcements back this week. Having played a lot of the year with key players missing, they'll have a bit more of a complete side this week. But for the Knights, they need to keep building and need to be better. And they take on the Panthers this week, who it's only going to get tougher for them, with Panthers being at home. But that was the game for the Knights, 26-22 defeating the Sharks. The Storm, 20 defeating the Roosters 4. It was a slow start from both sides. Victor Radley getting sin-binned in that first half for that high shot on Cameron Munster. Ryan Pappenhausen coming off a bit due to HIA. Really unfortunate stuff there for him, but he ended up coming back on and he tore up. It was a battle between Pappenhausen and Tedesco, and Pappenhausen clearly won that game. He was fantastic. Harry Grant was exceptional. The Storm just went with it in the second half. The Roosters, they really struggled. With the team that they have at the moment, a lot of experience missing from that side. But you got to take into consideration as well, they're very far from their best. Right before the game, Brett Moore was pulled out with a calf strain. So, and then having in the game, CSC Otakiaho, Jadwira Hargraves, and Adam Kieran were also missing in that game due to injuries as well. So, they were reduced to a 14, 15 man bench. It was really hard for the Roosters to kind of bounce back. And you know what? They had one of the worst completions in recent memory, 68% completion rate. That many errors being made. It's not what Trent Robinson would be looking for, especially to go down against Melbourne in the rivalry that they have. But the Storm were too clinical, too good. Nelson Asafa Solomona for me, 14 runs, 150 metres, and offload, 5 tackle breaks, and 21 tackles. That was really solid for them. Really just providing that go forward. And Tui Kamikamica coming on, and Christian Welch having a solid performance as well. But just allowing Harry Grant to finally get comfortable. Played about 50 odd minutes as well, 55 minutes. So good to see him right there scoring a try. And just anywhere he goes, he just seems to slot in really nicely. So it was really good to see that from him. The Roosters have to be better, and they've got the Anzac Day clash coming up this week, and they must be better than what they've got at the moment. What they pulled up on Friday obviously wasn't to their standard, but I'm sure they will look to bounce back for that. Seagulls 36 defeating the Titans 0. No part of me would have thought that this would be the scoreline, and no part of me thought that Seagulls would actually win this game. But 2 words, Tom Trbojevic. You see straight away the impact he had, in attack, but especially in defence. The Seagulls will be the most pleased with that game. Finally getting a win, and a comprehensive win in that fact, by keeping the Titans to 0, and with the attack that the Titans have, through their forwards and through their backline, a very skilled backline, they didn't break them once. If I was a Seagulls fan, I would be absolutely wrapped with that performance. But Tom Trbojevic came in, and just with the attack, it was just beautiful, seamless. And you see why the stats are the way they are, where, Tom Trbojevic, his impact in games is so important that they mainly win games. And if he's not there, they don't win. They got through a couple weeks ago against the Warriors in a very, very scrappy performance. But when he comes in to that fullback role and he comes in, he just slices in perfectly into attack. The way he just supports others was phenomenal. The Titans were shocking. I can definitely say that they were shell shocked with that performance. 24-0 at halftime to be down by one of the cellar dwellers in the comp who aren't really going that well this year. Definitely put a shock through the system there. But look, as I said, the Seagulls, they were impeccable in defence. And the Seagulls will start becoming relevant again once Trbojevic holds down that fullback position and stays consistent and gets a good run in with games and isn't spending any more time out on the sidelines. The Seagulls will be a much better team for that. Josh Aloiai, 21 runs, 191 metres, 65 post contacts with an offload and 20 tackles. Was really good for the Seagulls. I thought Josh Shooter had a phenomenal game. He had an absolute blinder. 13 runs, 123 metres, 2 line break assists, a try assist, 2 tackle breaks, an offload, and 23 tackles. Becoming an absolute handful playing out of position, usually 5/8 into second row. Becoming a handful there and really taking on the opportunity to play first grade no matter where he has to play and putting in phenomenal performances. So really good setup from Josh Shooter, and he's going to be a massive talent in the years to come. And Dave Fafita for a losing side, 17 runs, 154 metres, a line break, 5 tackle breaks, and 4 offloads. Now, that's just some big performances right there, and that's some big talk from an 80-minute player, and especially going down to a side that didn't even score a point. I thought they were really impressive stats there. The Rabbitohs 18 defeating the Tigers 14. Easily, by far, game of the year. Can't even compare. That game had me on the edge of my seat. I remember I was at an 18th birthday and I had about 15 people watching over me on the phone. And people were kind of trying to hover over my back just to see what was going on. Crazy finish. Absolute heartbreak for the Tigers. That was one of the better games they've played. Coming off the back of last week, considering how poor they were, especially at home and getting booed, they've put on a phenomenal performance. And like Nathan said last week, the last couple of games have finished between 8 to 9 points in the last 4 or 5 games. So we knew that we were coming into a tight affair. The Rabbitohs were very far from their best. And you could definitely see that in their performance. But the Tigers had them. The Tigers had them wrapped. And there were just a few things that, the Tigers, they could have had that game in the bag. But they just let themselves down. With Adam Reynolds converting that 2-point field goal from 45 plus out, no pressure was applied to him. And you can't do that to someone like Adam Reynolds who made them, actually get punished for that. Not only that, though, that try from Thomas Burgess. Now, I've got to say, Cook put that ball in for Burgess. And Offahan Gowie had run and then just shut down. Why he shut down, I don't know why he stopped and didn't make a play or an attempt to tackle. That's why the gap was so big. Offahan Gowie actually gave up in that play. If I was Maguire, I'd be absolutely seething with that. But look, the craziest finish I've ever seen. If you all have missed it, Rabbitohs, Tom Burgess made a break, went to put the ball down, looked like he had dropped it. So all the Rabbitohs are celebrating. While they're all celebrating, Brooks has picked up the ball around 100 metres on the other side of the field to score the try. So you get Tigers players running along with Brooks to celebrate that try scored. The ref calls play on, gets down to the other side of the field, he points the whistle down and announces the try. I'm sitting there thinking, what the heck is going to happen? He takes over to the bunker and you see that Burgess grounds that ball. If Burgess dropped that ball, and all the Rabbitohs players had jumped on him, and all the Tigers players went with Brooks and he see him score that try, Bennett would be losing his marbles and would be very disappointed at the fact that the Rabbitohs players, instead of trying to finish the play and jump on that ball, they just got too excited, got caught up in the moment. Actually, the ball actually went down and they just jumped on the players and had quite the laugh. Well, really, the Tigers did everything right there. Brooks did the right thing in running 100 metres to score that try. It really could have gone either way, but as I said, the Rabbitohs were lucky to get there, and absolute heartbreak for the Tigers. I really feel for the Tigers there, and that's probably one of the better performances I've seen from them in a very long time. Thomas Burgess, 22 runs, 206 metres, a try, a line break, 3 tackle breaks, an offload, and 31 tackles. A big performance from Tommy. Once again, he's been dominating for the Rabbitohs, for the last year and a bit, so another good reason to see that from him. And yeah, that try, to especially ice up at the end was really, really nice. Eels 35 defeating the Raiders 10. Now, didn't expect this one at all. To be honest, I actually tipped the Raiders in pretty comfortably, even though I know they had a few injuries. But defensively in the first half, Eels were fantastic. I thought they really came out and really turned up to play. And, Jordan Rapana got taken out a couple of times by just good Eels defence. Some of them I thought he actually should have made, but Eels were too good and defended that. but they took it away in the second half. Eels clicked into gear in the second half, and just that's it. They took off. It was game over for the Raiders within the first 10 minutes of that second half, and they were shocking. That was probably one of the worst performances I've seen from the Raiders, especially at home in their fortress of Canberra Stadium. I didn't really think that it was a performance that they'd be really proud of. Ricky Stewart made it very clear a lot of changes were going to be made, which we're going to run through a little later. But yeah, not the performance you'd expect from a Canberra Raiders side, especially at home and especially against a team like the Eels, who are trying to prove that they're better than what everyone says that they are, including myself. Mitch Moses had the best game of his career by far. Why he can't do that every week, I don't understand. To be quite honest with you, that game against the Storm where he had that sublime kicking game, he was really good that game. I thought that's the benchmark. This has now become the benchmark. I don't want to say after every performance that's a benchmark, but after this game, watching Mitch Moses in particular, he was fantastic. And that he's really set the benchmark, and he needs to be performing consistent performances like this to be actually made a lot more relevant and to be, more useful for the Parramatta Eels. That game against the Dragons, he was woeful. He disappeared. But again, the Eels got into the front, and when they got into the front, you start seeing the best of Mitch Moses. But when they're behind, that's when he needs to step up. But look, you got to give it to him. Best game of his career by far. RCG, another phenomenal performance. 19 runs, 179 metres, 29 tackles. The whole forward pack was fantastic. And really good to see the Eels break their hoodoo and win in Canberra for the first time since 2006. The Warriors beat the Dragons 20 points to 14 over in Wollongong. Mate, what a performance from the Warriors. Near perfect. 40 from 41 completed sets. No errors. It was a near perfect game. And they really proved their worth. That was a fantastic game. They've had a lot of injuries as well. But the Dragons weren't terrible. Just costly mistakes that really cost them the game. That obviously, Duffy not grounding the ball in the first half and leading to that try, which was, again, it's a ball that you got to ground. Kind of the reason why Duffy hasn't been re-signed yet is because defensively he needs a lot of work, and that kind of explains it. And Corey Norman, I'm not sure what was going through his mind when he kicked that dropout. When you're up by 2, he kicked it, tried to get the ball back. That costed them the try, and that costed them the game. On that play alone. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in his 100th game for the Warriors was flawless. Josh Curran finally getting a crack at that first in the second row spot there. First time there, 16 runs, 142 metres, a tackle break and offload and 50 tackles. I thought it was a very good performance from him. But the Warriors were playing really good football. As I said, 40 from 41 completed sets and no errors. I've got to say, it's very impressive. And especially to go down to a team like in Wollongong and get that done, it was fantastic as well. Cowboys 30 defeating the Bulldogs 18. An ordinary first half from both sides. Now, if those that didn't watch the game, we lost the game off the back of that first set. Renato Fatoni got the ball, second tackle. All he needed to do was hit it up. He passed the ball forward, straight into Averillo, and then regathered the ball. And it put us on the back foot straight away. The first 3 tackles should just be go forward. Especially if you come out of your line, make it all 5. What was going through his mind, I don't know. But it was an ordinary first half from both sides. It finished 6-4 half time. A lot of errors. Cowboys should have put a lot more points on us, but again, they couldn't execute it. But it's like the Bulldogs didn't turn up until Hetherington got sent off. And look, that was the first send-off in about 14 years. It's hard to disagree with it being a send-off. Really hard. Jack Hetherington needs to be better. He's played about 20-odd games. He's been suspended 6 times. I feel like if he gets any normal high tackle now, we'll constitute him 2 or 3 weeks out because of how bad his rap sheet is. Kind of reminds me of Adrian Morley, back when his rap sheet was shocking. So any tackle that, that he copped would be 1 or 2 weeks. I was taking that from Paul Kent, who explained that the other night. And it makes sense. Hetherington's a promising player. He's got a big career ahead of him. But he's had 6 suspensions in 20-odd games. When's it going to stop? But as I said, we turned up once Hetherington got sent off, which wasn't good enough. I thought the call where we got that try disallowed with Hopewadi being offside, I thought it was a tough call. Could have changed the momentum of the game, but we didn't deserve to win anyway. The Cowboys, again, just doing the little things better than us at the moment. Francis Molo, 15 runs, 187 metres, a tackle break and offload and 26 tackles. A big performance from him, and proving he's going to be a valuable addition to the St. George Illawarra Dragons pack next year. But yeah, the Bulldogs, we haven't won in 6 games, and then I'm starting to not know how I feel anymore about it. It's starting to infuriate me. But, we just have to, as Bulldogs fans, we just have to grind it out and just wait until this period is over. Now, taking a look over at the NRL ladder, you've got the Panthers, who are currently still the only undefeated team in the comp on 12 points, sitting atop there. Rabbitohs and Eels, second and third on 10. Storm, Roosters and Dragons, all on 8 points. The Titans and the Warriors on 6, finish off the top 8. The other teams on 6 due to for and against Raiders and Knights. The Sharks, the Seagulls, and the Cowboys. Seagulls and Cowboys especially start moving up a little bit with those wins. On 4 points, Broncos and Tigers on 2, and Bulldogs still without a win to start the year. News around the NRL world, a lot to get through, guys. Quite a bit to get through, so we're going to go straight into it. Herman SAS has been shopped to the Cowboys. Hasn't even played a game for the Titans yet, but Cowboys looking at reinforcements, and he could be quite the option. Aaron Clark has re-signed with the Titans till 2023. The NRL has fined the Bulldogs $20,000 for not removing Lachlan Lewis off the field when he got concussed in the 5th minute of the Good Friday game. Brendan Piakura has re-signed with the Broncos to the end of the 2024 season, a big coup for the Broncos side. TJ Perenara, the current All Blacks player, has looked to gain a lot of interest from the Sydney Roosters as a potential option. Has been offered $130,000 to go to the Roosters, and he's taken a genuine interest in making the switch over, so he's expected to sign shortly. I don't know much about TJ Perenara to make a comment on it, so I don't know whether he's quite the player where he'll transition well. I'm not too sure. So I could do a bit of research and get back to you guys on that. Luciano Leilua is looking at a contract extension with the club. The club want to keep him and nail him down. He's been playing absolutely beautiful football. Joey may be offered less than what he's on now, which is $700,000 a season. But there's a good chance that Joey may not get re-signed at the club. Daniel Tupou is looking to extend for 2 years, with Angus Crichton, as I said, extending for 1, as I mentioned last week. The Cowboys are looking to sign a few more players and rebuild their squad under Todd Payten, looking at Nico Hines and Dale Finucane from the Cowboys and Jaden Ockenbaugh from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. CC Fatalakai is re-signed with the Sharks for 2 years. Titans have come through an offer for Xavier Coates. 3-year, $1.7 million deal. The Broncos have fallen a little short under that, 3-year, $1.5 million deal. But Xavier Coates is actually waiting for Craig Bellamy to make a call on what he's looking to do because he's genuinely interested in moving to the Storm if Bellamy will stick around. Jackson Hastings has signed a 2-year deal with the West Tigers and will be coming back from Wigan at the end of the 2021 season. The Sharks have signed Will Chambers, a former Storm player, over from Japanese Union, as a bit of cover in the depth for the Sharks, who have gone down with some backline injuries in recent times. Danny Levi has filled up the top 30 over at the Brisbane Broncos, signing to the end of the 2021 season with the Bronx. Carmichael Hunt has earned a train and trial contract with the Broncos as well, which started on Monday. Billy Walters is looking to sign with the Broncos next year, now that Danny Levi has taken that last spot in the squad. The Bulldogs have come out and are looking to identify some targets to beef up their pack. They're looking at Kurt Capewell and Toby Rudolph, and looking at another backline purchase in Brent Naden. Barrett has gone to Naden's home and the family home and tried to persuade him to come to the Dogs. Wait to see how that goes. Hayes Perrin was granted an immediate release from the Warriors and will be heading to the Parramatta Eels, I believe, till the end of next year. We'll wait to the Eels to confirm that. The Cowboys have signed Chad Townsend on a 3-year deal, $3-year, $2 million deal, which is not bad. Pretty good signing for them. He can organise the team. Having played with Valentine Holmes before would be a valuable asset as well. It's a good signing for the Cowboys. We actually really like it. They should have just gone for someone like Adam Reynolds, but they've offered Townsend a bit less than what they would have offered Adam Reynolds. It's good to see Townsend lock in his future on a 3-year contract, $650,000 a year. Mate, why not? Dylan Brown was filmed by someone at a pub, getting a little busy, to put it that way, having intercourse in a public toilet. Now, the video was recorded and put up without his knowledge and wasn't uploaded. It was uploaded without his or the person involved's consent. The Eels have taken this matter very seriously and have reported to the NRL Integrity Unit and will be making no further comment at this time. Trent Merrin has announced his immediate retirement from the game. Bit of a shocking one, to be quite honest with you. He's been quite the player in his time in the NRL for the last 10, 11 years. Played well for the Saints, then went to Panthers, went over to the Super League and played for Leeds before coming back to the Dragons. The retirement is immediate, so the last game he played was on Sunday against the Warriors. So, mate, all the best in retirement, and I appreciate your contribution to City Country, the Dragons, the Panthers, and also in the State of Origin as well. The Broncos have been linked to two big players in signing Adam Reynolds and Mitch Moses. Reynolds, from what I'm hearing, pretty keen to and really looking into going over to Brisbane. I know his preference is to stay in Sydney, while the Sharks are calling in and may offer him $1 million a year for 3 years, waiting to see what happens with that. But Mitch Moses has been linked over to the Brisbane Broncos as well. If Broncos can sign Mitch Moses and Adam Reynolds, that puts them almost automatically into genuine premiership contention. It's a big call, but I think with those two players there, Mitch Moses, I don't think he's not an organizer. He's more of a ball runner. He focuses on his running game, and Reynolds does all the organising. With Asako there and Turpin and even, potentially Levi in there next year, I can see that working out really well. The Titans have pulled the $2.8 million offer for Katoni Staggs. At the moment, Eels and Broncos are still in the race. Eels have offered him $800,000 a year for 3 years, but that's to strictly play at centre. Looking like he'll stay at the Broncos. And on Katoni Staggs, which is going to be broken shortly. Now, he has been made a complaint against a lady at a altercation at a pub for acting indecent. Now, no charges have been laid. The NRL Integrity Unit are looking into the situation, but that's what we know at the moment, which is kind of going to affect whether he pulls up his socks and stays in the NRL or potentially cops something a bit more serious than that. Let's go over to previewing round 7, the Anzac round. The Panthers come up against the Knights. Now, Kurt Capewell has been named in the centres to replace Momorowski, who got suspended for 3 weeks on that high shot on Tom Dearden. Now, from what I'm hearing in the late mail, so obviously keep an eye out for it, Dylan Edwards and Apostol Crossell will be making their returns after the Thursday night clash, which means Steve Crichton will go back to centre, and Capewell will then go back into second row. For the Knights, Holmel Hunt is out of the side and replaced on the wing by Stalford Tyre. The only change for the Newcastle Knights. If they get Crossell and Edwards back, it's a guaranteed win for the Panthers, and I'll go 13+. Titans come up against the Rabbitohs. Now, Anthony Dodd will take the spot of Jonas Pearson back after that hip injury. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui suspended and replaced by Moriaki Fotuaika in the starting side with Sam McIntyre to make his club debut. For the Rabbitohs, Alex Johnson replaces Latrell Mitchell, who's suspended for 4 weeks, couldn't successfully downgrade that high tackle. Now, from what I'm hearing, Cody Walker's going into fullback, not Alex Johnston, so keep an eye out for that mail once again. Jackson Paulo will go into the wing. Josh Mantle is replaced by Dane Gagai, who's come with a hamstring injury, and Stephen Masters looking to be potentially out of the 17 with all those late mail changes that's going to be happening. With this game, I'm going to go Titans. I think they will bounce back. They will struggle a bit with Fa'asuamaleaui, but I do think with Cody Walker at fullback, it's a little unproven, so we're looking to see how that goes. But I'm going to go a bit of a shock one and go the Titans for this game. Eagles come up against the Broncos over in Darwin. Dylan Brown is takes the spot of Will Smith in the side, come back from suspension. Ryan Madison was named in the starting side, pushing Isaiah Papali'i over to the bench. The only thing I have with that is late mail coming through on my end is that Ryan Madison hasn't flown with the team and won't be flying with the team. Will be coming into, from my understanding, will be looking to play New South Wales Cup, and Isaiah Papali'i will start again this week. For the Broncos, Herbie Farnworth will take the spot of Richie Kenner, and Daniel Levi will make his club debut off the bench. And I think with this one, I think Eels will take this one out as well. Sharks come up against the Bulldogs. Sean Johnson comes back into the side on the bench. Josh Dugan will take the spot of T. Wilton, who will go to the second row, and which means Jack Williams will go into reserves, from my understanding. For the Bulldogs, Dylan Upper and Luke Thompson will start the clash with Hetherington and Atoni. Hetherington suspended for 5 weeks on that shocking hit on Valentine Holmes, and Renouf Atoni dropped. Chris Smith has been promoted from the bench to the starting side in the second row. Jackson Topine is out with bone bruising to his knee. And Offa Hiki Ogden has been left out of the side as well. And 3 new faces on the bench. Brad Dietz, Matt Dury, playing his first game of the year, and Avasi Manufanai, promoted to the top 30 squad, will be making his club debut for the Dogs. With Sean Johnson coming off the bench, Dugan coming in, I think you know who to tip. I'll stick by my Dogs, but I think it's a pretty obvious tip here. Cowboys come up against the Raiders. Cowboys 1-17. The Raiders, a lot of changes. Josh Hodgson being replaced by Tommy Simons. I've got to confirm this one. Not by Tom Simons at all, by any means. I paid a bit of a mind blank, which I'll come to that shortly. In the other news there, Josh Papali will move over to the bench with Joe Tarpanay dropped for this game. Ryan James will go into the starting side alongside Omri Gula, and Ryan Sutton will be filling in at lock, which would be quite intriguing to see how that all goes down. Now, the other changes there, Corey Haruo-Naira and Corey Hosmer will jump onto the bench for their first game of the year. CS Holiola has also been dropped from the side, and Sebastian Chris will replace Bailey Simonson on the wing. Now, in this game, I think with the changes that were made, I think the Raiders will get them. It will be a difficult night for the Cowboys to kind of control the weather on that side there. And I think the Raiders will come out wanting to prove a point, especially with how poor they were last week. Now, the West Tigers come up against the Sea Eagles. Tigers, Michael Cheekham replaces Asu Kapoa, who's out with an ACL injury for the year. In the centres, and Alex Seyfarth replaces Thomas McKaylee on the bench. For the Sea Eagles, they'll be 1-17, and I want to back the Tigers this week, thinking that we'll do something, on Anzac Day, and hoping they pull off a good clash on Sunday, and especially the points they put on the weekend. I'd like to see that do that again, but I'm going to go Tigers, but it's going to be a tough game. Roosters coming up against the Saints. Brett Morris returns and replaces Mate Kuvalu. Sam Verrills play his first game this year, shifting Ben Marsh to the bench and Kieran out of the side. Dragons, Blake Laurie returns to the side with Trent Merrin retiring immediately. There's a 50-50 chance Ben Hunt will return for the Anzac Day clash. Going to go the Dragons this one. Even though they get a few reinforcements back, the Roosters, I still think the Dragons will be able to get over the one on top of them and win this Anzac Day clash. Last game for the round, Storm versus the Warriors. Dale Finucane will play his first game this year, replacing Chris Lewis on the bench, and Ryan Pappenhausen is out of the side, replaced by Nico Hines. Pappenhausen will be out for 1 to 2 weeks. Warriors, Peter Hiku is injured his shoulder, comes out of the side, as well as Adam Pompey is injured his ankle. Replaced by Dave Fusatu'a on the wing and Marcelo Montoya in the centres, and Jack Murchie is named in the centres as well. Bailey Sirinen will turn on the bench from that shoulder injury, replacing Paul Turner, who's also injured his shoulder. They get Finucane back. They're missing Pappenhausen, but I think Storm will still get the job done. Harry Grant's playing phenomenal football. Brandon Smith as well. And Munster and Hughes playing well in the forward pack. I think they will get one over the Warriors to finish off round 7. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on League Chat with the Stat. As you know, we're all over the podcasting streams. Like I mentioned, merchandise coming soon. So stay tuned for what the costs of that merch will going to be. Kicking off with some hats for now, just to start it off, and we'll go from there. They'll be all over Instagram and Facebook Marketplace, so you'll be able to get those. So, look, guys, again, appreciate your time. If you are interested in actually purchasing one, please put your name down. We've ordered a bit of a batch so far, so we're looking to hopefully sell them out straight away. But if you're on the waiting list, we'll know you're on the waiting list as well. So just let us know via our Facebook and Instagram pages, and also let us know via the podcasting streams as well, or just send through an email, legechatwithstat@gmail.com. Guys, thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining me once again this week. Enjoy round 7. Hopefully you guys get 8 from 8 for my tips this week, even though I haven't had that as being the case as of yet. But enjoy the week as it is. Enjoy round 7. And we'll come back next week and discuss everything round 7. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.